Now, with Brian Wilson live in Charlotte, this is Common Sense coverage of the Democratic National Convention with Brian and Brian, sponsored by the Media Research Center. 105.9 FM and AM 630. WMAL.
Good morning, everybody. Brian Wilson from Charlotte. Brian Neiman back at the house in D.C. We are joined here on Radio Row, Brian, by a couple of familiar faces. Joe Trippi, a noted Democratic strategist, is here. He's also seen him on the Fox News Channel. And, of course, all sitting across from me is our good friend, Mary Katharine Ham. Good to have you both on the show.
Good morning.
All right, so, Joe, let's start with you a little bit about Clinton's speech last night. Did he hit the right notes? And, most importantly, it seemed like there are two goals here. Motivate the base, which I think he did, and also try to reach those yet undecided voters. How did he do?
I thought, it was a long speech, but I thought he did pretty well. I mean, mostly because he just has the credibility to do it. He's the last president anybody remembers where they felt like the economy was booming and jobs were being created and all the things that people have angst about right now. And he was able to, be sort of the arbiter between the Bush policies that came after him and what Barack Obama did. And he did it very well because he was gracious to both President Bush's and presidents, and then at the same time just pretty much eviscerated the don't double down on trickle down, pointing out that they had both quadrupled the deficit with Bush #1 and doubled it under Bush 2, and I think made the case for Obama really defending against Romney, I think.
Brian?
Well, Joe, I want to know, because if you look at the TV ratings, Fox did very well during the Republican National Convention. MSNBC did very well the night before. So it appears that people are watching with their own political eyes. And I wonder, who are these undecideds? Have you ever met one? Where do you find them? And, what are the campaigns doing to convince them? And do these speeches do anything to actually change their minds?
No, Brian, you're absolutely right. First of all, there are no undecideds. The Obama campaign, when I've talked to them, believe that there are 90,000 undecided voters in the combined swing states. I mean, that are actually up for grabs. So you're talking about two campaigns spending upwards of $1 billion each
to get 90,000 votes.
To fight over 90,000 votes, because 5,000 votes in Ohio may decide it. We're going to have, I think, a very close election that's reminiscent of the 2000 election, where Bush won Florida by 500 votes. It's going to be tough.
So you're talking the I-4 corridor in Florida. Yeah. You're talking about Northern Virginia, the battleground there,
Absolutely.
And where in Ohio?
Oh, well, in Ohio they're sort of scattered. I mean, it's really could get decided by 10,000 votes throughout the state.
I mean, bottom line, Joe, after this is over, obviously we haven't seen Obama yet. Do we get a bump out of this convention, or are the days of bumps done because there's no one to earn?
There's no one. That's why there wasn't a big bump for Romney. It wasn't whether the convention was going out. There's no one out there to move. Both campaigns are now in literally the base driving, energizing the base, making sure they get out to vote. And these conventions are set up to try to reach whatever undecideds are watching, but I think most people are watching right now to cheerlead their guy, which, by the way, could happen in debates too. We could go into these debates thinking they're going to be big deals. Undecideds are going to make up their minds finally, and what we're going to find out is the only people watching are people who want to cheer on Romney and people want to cheer on Obama, and nothing really changes unless there's a big gaffe.
All right, so we've been talking a lot this morning about the moment as they opened the convention where they had to change the platform, and it happened. Let's forget about what the platform issue was. It happened in a rather undemocratic way. You'd have to agree with that.
Well, yeah, except, a parliamentarian would have just immediately banged the gavel on the first time and said, hey, the ayes have it.
Exactly.
This is what happens when you have someone who hasn't run a convention before actually chaired something like this, who's a politician, a good one, who doesn't want to offend the room. Hey, let's do that again. Hey, let's do that again. And
you got prompted. Look, they're going to say what they're going to say. You just have to rule.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If he had ruled the first time, it wouldn't have been as awkward as it was. But the whole thing was self-inflicted anyway. I mean, how how that platform got out without somebody. I'm convinced no one knew, and no one, I mean, from on high had taken the time to look at it and realize that that things had been taken out.
Mary Katharine, is that something that people can will have a lot of fun with on the Republican side?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll have some fun with it. The difference between, because this kind of thing happens at conventions frequently, the rulings are not actually very often Democratic, because everything's supposed to go smoothly, so we have to pretend like we're all agreeing,
right.
Which I wish we didn't have to do. That happened at the Republicans convention too with this Ron Paul stuff. The difference is this has a little more legs in the mainstream because it's about Israel, it's about God, it's about Jerusalem, and people can sort of relate to that. The Ron Paul and the rule changes within the RNC didn't have as much translation to normal people.
And there's dramatic, awkward video of it too.
Yeah, that's true.
And the Ron Paul skirmish in Tampa may actually have larger overreaching impact in future conventions
right.
and how nominees are picked, but it didn't get much of a media play, again, because it wasn't something that everybody could grab onto really easily and understand.
So what we're going to take away from these conventions is the Democrats will point to Clint Eastwood in that night, and Republicans will point to this, God Jerusalem voice vote that was a debacle, and that's what we're going to get out of these conventions. I ask seriously whether or not we need conventions anymore, since they're essentially now just a marketing campaign for both parties.
No, look, these things are obsolete. Let's face it. I mean, they're now choreographed shows. No vote matters. I mean, I was at probably the last convention, 1980, where there were really votes on the floor, Carter versus Kennedy,
right,
that actually affected. There was a chance that the nomination could fall out of Carter's hands. It didn't. But I mean, votes mattered, issues mattered. There would have been a knockdown, drag out on the God Jerusalem thing if it was a real vote and it was a real issue.
All right. So the other thing that's burbling this morning is the move from the Bank of America Stadium, which holds, I think, 74,000 people, back to this arena where we are now, which holds about 20,000 people. The question is, did they do it because there was a 40% chance of rain when they said all week long, rain or shine? Or did they do it because they were having trouble filling the arena?
I think it was the rain. Look, these guys are good, and they have plenty of buses coming from. They've known for a number of years now this was going to happen. I think they had that all laid out. But I do think if you've been walking around this convention, every couple of hours, a good ton of water comes dumping out of the sky on you.
It does rain here.
A lot. And I think they just got realistic about it and thought that was the best. Otherwise, you're going to have a massive problem if it just starts dumping rain today.
And in fairness, we say, well, if it was been a sporting event, they would have gone ahead and gone forward and just see what happens. But you can't do that in this situation because you couldn't move it back here in like 2 hours' notice.
Right. And then you're going to have if it dumps for 2 hours today, we're all inside and they're speaking, that's one thing. But if it's out there and 70,000 people are standing in the rain and the wind's blowing, I mean, what the symbolic nature of that
right.
Would be very, very costly, regardless of how nature doing its thing is not.
But again, I don't know why they didn't make that call day one.
I agree with that. I think the sooner they actually they dodged a big bullet by doing it as late as they did yesterday, because if they'd done this today, I think they'd already have 30,000 people here, even if they couldn't fill it up. And then they'd have all kinds of angry stuff going on.
Worst of all worlds.
Yeah. Joe Trippi, Mary Katharine Ham, Brian Wilson, all live in Charlotte. I'm back here in D.C.